This video is now diamonds. Hello. So I've had a revelation, kind of sorts, recently that my old videos when I started doing the vlogs were as mad as a bag of otters. I think I've used that line before. Anyway, they were insane, and I think I should bring that back. So not this time though, because I'm actually doing something a little different this time. Some of you may or may not know that I am working on a mod called The Core, and I'm working on it under the name of Scotch and Coffee Studios. If you want to follow the development of that, there is a link down in the description. I got told off for saying doobly doo, so I'm not going to do that anymore. But yeah, one thing I was thinking of is basically I've played a load of mods where the mapping hasn't been fantastic, and I review maps and mods sometimes for Scotch and Coffee. Jesus Christ. There's an army of tractors going past my house today. I review maps and mods for people, as requested on the forum, and I have done in the past for TWHL's Map of the Month. So I tend to have to know what I'm talking about in terms of mapping. So I'd like to think I'm a pretty adequate mapper. Maybe. But anyway, I've played a few mods recently where the mapping has been subpar, and I just wanted to point out, because Half-Life Goldsource is an old engine, I'll give you that. It came out in 1998 and it was made by modifying the Quake engine, but people are still mapping for it like it's 1998. And it's not. The engine's a lot more powerful than it used to be. The level design tools are a hell of a lot better than they used to be. So I was just going to throw out a few tips. This is in no way a tutorial, because I'm not going to tell you how the things are done exactly. I'm just going to give you a few basic ideas of how to do things so they look halfway decent. And the one thing I'm going to focus on today is corridors. Now, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Toadman. He made the mods As Your Sheep and Point of View. Both fantastic mods with incredible storylines, but As Your Sheep especially, the whole thing was just corridors, and every single one was bland, texturing was bad, and it's just like he used them to connect all the points between the set pieces in his mod, and that's not really a good way to do things. You've got to try and make the whole thing decent looking. Right, so I knocked up a simple corridor in about a minute, and it looked like this. So you can see that it's fairly basic, the lighting's bland, it's just white lighting, 6 sides, 4 walls, ceiling, floor, and 3 white lights. I mean, this is fine from getting from A to B, simple, straightforward, quick to make, but it doesn't exactly look good. How can we fix this? Okay. Let's break up the wall for a start. The far wall is a perfect square, which doesn't look fantastic, so I'm going to whack another layer of wall in there, but I don't want the texture to repeat itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick another texture up there, like so. And I've also changed the texture of the roof to accommodate this new texture change on the walls, so that it doesn't clash with the tiles, because going from a metal wall to a concrete foundation wall, then back to a metal ceiling, it just looks a bit strange. Okay, so this is better. It breaks up the wall a little bit, and it just adds a little bit more variation to the corridor, and there's also a little bit of contrast in colour there from light blue to solid grey. But the lighting still isn't fantastic, and it's still a bit bland. So, you may have noticed what I've done is taken out the 3 ceiling lights, and I've added 2 lights into a little trim, which I've also added to the bottom of the wall. Fairly simple to do. I just knocked the bottom section off that wall and duplicated the walls downwards and just stuck those 2 lights in there. Adds a little bit more variation to the lighting. I've also put 4 yellow lights up above the concrete foundation area, and I've also thrown in some supports because all that concrete holding itself up just wouldn't happen. After looking at that in-game, I decided the lighting was a bit overpowering. There was too much yellow going on. I really can't stand yellow lighting, and there's a lot of lights in the Half-Life texture files that do cast yellow lights, and it just doesn't look great in most places. So in the next shot what I did was I took out those yellow lights in the top and I just stuck in a little red light on a little power adapter type unit that I stuck up on the wall. Remember that this mod's set in Black Mesa, and Black Mesa is a huge place. It's got electricity flowing all over the place, water supply and all this other stuff to deal with. So what I did here was I stuck 2 black cables in a small power box just above the foundation level, which you can see in this shot here. And I've also thrown in 2 pipes, fairly simple, just solid cylinders, 8 sides. Just cloned it to create the second one and just stretched it so it expanded down the entire corridor. And then in this shot you can also see the red light which I've thrown up in the top there also highlights the pipe, which looks fairly nice. Okay, so again, if I just go back to the corridor shot, the lighting's a bit more interesting and you've got some activity up in the top there which makes it look a bit more interesting. But the corridor itself is still pretty bland, so what I've done next is I threw in some alcoves. Now, corridors don't have to be a straight line to the next room. If you throw some alcoves in there, it just makes the facility feel a bit more real. You know, there's rooms coming off the side and such like that. The second shot I took hasn't saved this area once the alcoves are in there. But basically, this first alcove on the right contains a door, which is locked, and there's a light above that. Again, I chose a green light to add a little bit more variation to the lighting that was already there. And in the next one further down, I've just thrown in a trash can and a vending machine, which also casts a bit of light. That does cast yellow light, but because of all the blue lighting and red lighting and green lighting that's going on, it isn't so overpowering. So this took me in all about 20 minutes. I mean, the original basic corridor took less than a minute to throw together and compiled in, well, less than a second. I think it was about 1 second it took to compile this corridor. So yeah, you have to put a bit more work in, and it does take a little bit longer. I mean, 1 minute and 20 minutes is a big difference there, but in the end it pays off so much more because well, the corridor is a lot more interesting to look at, and the player might stop in there, try the locked door. It just means they stick around in the corridor a bit longer, and in the end, these few seconds they spend extra in a corridor, it mounts up and it adds to gameplay time. It's nice to have like interesting corridors to run through rather than sending people through bland hallways from set piece to set piece. I mean, I have set pieces in my mod. I try and keep this level of detail up throughout the level. Sometimes it's not entirely possible. It all depends on the environment you're going for. I mean, this is by no means finished. What I would do, what else I would do is maybe stick some signs or posters on the opposite wall to make that one a bit more interesting. Maybe knock in a lab with a window that the player can actually go into, but just have ammunition in there, or maybe a few enemies. But at the end of the day, it's a lot more interesting to look at things this way. One thing I have heard people say is, you know, in real life you get corridors that are just straight lines and solid blocks, cubes, you know. Personally, I've never come across one of these. And at the end of the day, realism is the death of these old Goldsource mods, because as a map designer, it's your job to make the place feel removed from reality. It's a sci-fi fantasy setting. You don't want it to be realistic, you want it to look cool and interesting. I mean, I always say when I'm making a map, I like to tell a story. I like to have every dead body, every bullet hole, I like to have a little bit of story behind it. Not so much narrated in-game, but just so you can look at it and think, yeah, something went down here. I mean, I would throw enemies into this corridor that I've created now, and basically this corridor now, I'm going to stick it in one of my maps for the core. And, yeah, carry on from there. So I hope you found this guide a little helpful. If you want tutorials, I'm not great at writing them, but if you go to twhl.co.za, there's a massive rook of tutorials on there, including architecture, so the sort of stuff that I've covered here today. So with that, I'm going to bid you good day, but make sure you subscribe if you want to see more guides like this. Head over to twhl.co.za if you want to read the tutorials. Go to scotchandcoffee.co.uk to see my other work and our forum. You sign up to the forum, you can enter competitions. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You get vlogs, more guides like this. We're also working on a couple of movie projects, hoping to do stuff with Gmod. All in all, it should be fairly interesting stuff coming up sometime in the future. So if you like this, make sure you comment below, give a thumbs up, and yeah, see you soon.